Hi and welcome to DoesQA. If you've just signed up for your account and you're logging in for the first time, this is what you're going to see. We have a sample flow that you can take a look at. This has two open nodes that then merge together and run the same test on both of the different browsers. Feel free to have a play about with this, explore the nodes, extend it, and also try branching it. But we're going to leave that node to one side for right now, and we're going to create a new flow. And I'm going to give you a demo of two really simple tests that you can do in DoesQA. So I'm using the internet website, which is really useful for practicing and learning test automation. And I've pulled two pages out of there. So we've got the dynamic content one, which will be perfect for testing visual regression. And we've also got the login page one. Now you could create these two tests as independent flows, but just for simplicity, I'm going to do it all inside one for this. So I've copied the URL for the visual regression one, and I'm opened the starter node, and I've pasted that in. And right here, we can select which runner we want. Now we're going to leave it as Chrome, but we've got Firefox, we've got Edge, and we've got a whole range of simulated devices, including mobile ones. So we're going to leave that as desktop and Chrome. We also have an advanced tab, and you can see here you can change language, time zone, throttle, you can set basic auth, and you can also set custom headers. But we don't need that right now. But as you're exploring DoesQA, make sure you notice if there's an advanced tab, make sure to check it out. So we're just going to save that, and then we'll get rid of this comment, and we'll leave that simple check node. And what we'll do is we're going to go and grab a change detection node for visual regression. So if I scroll down on the node library, we can see change detection snapshot, and that's the one we want here. So what this essentially does is it takes a screenshot of the page or element. Let's go into it. So it's currently set to element, and we could take a screenshot of just one element, or we could take a screenshot of the entire page. We can exclude certain elements, and they get blanked out of the screenshot. We can also say if we don't want this to be a hard fail, we could then, using the advanced tab, we could just change this to a pass with warning. So I'm going to say any amount should fail, and we're going to leave it as fail. So very, very simple. All the options are really intuitive. We just give you the settings that you need to worry about. So there's no documentation that needs looking up or anything like that. You just see what the options are on the screen, and you just pick from those. So what will happen, I'm just going to hit run on this, and what's going to happen is a completely new machine, virtual machine that's never run a test before, is going to get created, and it's going to run this test. Now of course the first time it's got no image to compare to, and so all it's going to do is store that image as the control for next time. So we're going to need to run this twice, and the second time we should see a fail. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get started on the other one, so the login one. So I'm going to drag in a new open node, and I'm going to paste this this URL in, and we're going to do a little bit better of a functional test here. So as you can see, it's telling us that we can use Tom Smith and super secret password on these fields, but what we need to do first is create elements for them. So if you're familiar with record and playback tools, then what would be happening in the background as you're recording and recording your test is it's going to be like copying the CSS selectors. So if you're familiar with that, then this is going to feel ever so slightly more involved, but I promise you this is well worth it. So I'm going to right click on the element that I'm interested in, and I'm going to say inspect, and over here we can see that this is the input that I'm interested in, and if I mouse over it, then you can see it getting highlighted on the left, and we can see it's got an ID of username. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that and go back to does, and what we want to do is we want to set a value into that. So I'm going to drag over set input, and that's in the action section, and I'm going to go into this, and I'm going to create a new element, and I'm going to call it I'm going to call it username input. We're going to leave it as CSS type, but we could change it to XPath, visible text, or test ID. And because it's got an ID, that's a hash, and we're going to paste that in. And so that has just created that new element. Now that is in the elements library, which I'll show you in a minute, but that means that if we ever need to change this, let's say it gets changed to email address, because username and email address is quite interchangeable, then what we can do is we can change that element in the element library, and everywhere it's used across the entire system, it will instantly update. And what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that it's working. So we're going to do the sort of happy path test. So I'm just going to set the value Tom Smith initially on this one. Okay, so we'll just select it. All I did there was Command D, and we're going to go back in. Now we don't want to be setting the username input. What we will do is we'll just check that it is password. It is. It's got an ID of password on the input. Really nice and easy. So I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to call it password input. I'm going to do the hash to say that it's an ID. There is actually a link here as well, just to help you if CSS selectors are new to you. And we don't want this password. What we do want is super secret password. So we'll go back, we'll paste that in. And then we need to do this on the test website as well, just to see what we'd be expecting. So we'll also need this input. So this input doesn't have an ID, but it does have type submit. So what I'm going to do is copy that. So type submit, and we want to drag in a touch node, and we want to create a new element for submit button. And we need a different type of selector. So using square brackets, if I just do that, it will match an attribute on a property of type submit. And if we want to make sure that that's unique, a little trick is to go over to here and do a Command F to do a find, get this little box, put that in, and if it says 1 of 1, you know that's a good selector. What you don't really want is like 1 of 5. That means, you know, that it will select the first of those to use, but it does mean that you're potentially adding some flakiness to your tests. We'd highly recommend, unless you really want there to be multiple things, so if you're looking at like a list of products, we'd really highly recommend that you use selectors where possible, which just return one element on each page. So and that's just a really nice easy way of testing that. So I'm going to save this, and we just want to touch it, and that's great. We're now going to link this up, so just wire these together to say that these should happen in sequence, and we're going to see what happens on this side. Okay, so I've got a change your password warning from Chrome, and we're now in the super secret secure area. So what we'll do is we'll find some elements here. So this is a H2. I'm just going to see if there's any other H2s. So 1 of 1. So that's going to be really easy to create a selector for. And we'll also look at this banner area as well. So this has data alert, ID, flash, and I'm just going to check flash, and that's 1 of 1 as well. So we'll make sure that this includes that text, and then we'll also make sure that the secure area title is displayed as well. So if I go over here, did the URL change? It did. Okay, so we will just linking all of the check nodes. We're going to check the URL. Now, if you're not seeing something, you can always do a little search, and you can see that it's check address. So I'll wire that up, and we want to make sure that it ends with, and it was secure. Oops. Okay, and now we'll do a check state. And on this, what we want to do is check displayed. We'll create a new element, and this is going to be flash banner, so that's what they call it, and it had an ID of flash, didn't it? So we're going to make sure that that is displayed, and then we're also going to check text. Oh, I said I'd check the text on the flash banner as well, so I'll do that now. So we'll have two checks, one that it's there and then a second one. Obviously you don't really need the first one, checking that it's there if we're going to check the text on it. But you can see from the element that I've just created, I can now just select it. And of course this is also auto-completes as well. So flash banner, and we're going to say that it contains, and I think I copied it, but I'll just go back. You logged into the secure area, and then we're going to check the title as well. So new element, I'm just going to call this first H2 because this will be really common, and like I said, if it does match, it will auto use the first one on the page. So we're just going to say it's a H2, and I am going to say secure area. Now I've done this in lowercase, but if I go over to the advanced tab, we can look at value standardization, and we can say lowercase. So like I said, it's always worth just checking that advanced tab just to see if there's any extra tools that might be useful to you. And what I would say is, if you don't see a tool that would be useful to you, then absolutely let us know, because that's how we've been evolving this over the last couple of years. When we started Does, this list of nodes had a very small selection, and we've been building them up as each one of our customers has had a requirement. We have been adding the features to support that, and everyone gets the benefit. So please definitely do let us know, because it's brilliant for us. So this is now our second test, and we've still got our visual regression one. So if I go to the results now, so this first one has finished, and we'll look at the visual regression. Okay, that's nice. We got a different avatar that time, and you can see that this is really useful. Any one of our steps you can go into and you can just see. So this is really useful if you're like stepping over. So while this is just running, let's jump back here and let's have a look at the website and see what happens if we got the credentials wrong. So what happens if I put in just some random gibberish? Okay, I wonder if that's the same flash. It is, but of course it's got a different message, and we're not on the secure. So this would be really easy. What we can do is we can set the same username, but then what we're going to do is we're going to just thinking about this, we'll actually have, I'm sure you all noticed it, but I'm only just noticing button right now. So I'm just showing you I can edit this inline anywhere, and that just updates that element across the entire system. So what I'll do is I'll just select these, and I'm going to duplicate them. So I just did that on Command D, but if I right clicked, you can also see the options here as well. And so we'll set the same username, but instead of setting the correct password, I'm going to set a random password. So you might be noticing this. You can also just type a $, and you'll see all of these options. Now this is, if you're familiar with something like Faker, we have a similar thing built in, and we have a bunch of our own values as well. And for something like this, we have a set of test values. We also have a set of random values. And the difference between those two is test values will give you the same, in this case, zip code throughout the entire test case, but it will be different between test cases. And random will give you a different value every time you use it. So if we just set this to a random zip code as our password and save that, we'll still hit the submit button. We then want to make sure that we're not on, so doesn't equal or doesn't end with, we'll say that. We want to then make sure that the flash banner is displayed. So this is actually kind of useful that I did split them like this. And then we have a different message. So your password is invalid. Okay, so let's just link all of these up. And we want to make sure that that's not displayed. So I'm just going to get rid of that. yeah, we'll get rid of that because there might actually be another H2 on the login page. So what you can see here is we've got a common open node which goes to the URL. We've got a common first step which is setting the username, and then this test branches into 2 test cases. So if I just go back to the results, we should see, okay, so this is our login. Actually, before I run this again, you can see here that it's hard to tell which is our visual regression and which is our login. So I'm just going to scroll right the way down to the bottom, and we've got a bunch of utility nodes. So I'm just going to go with name test. I'm going to drag that in, and then I'm going to basically insert this here. And we're going to name that visual regression. I'm going to duplicate that, and then I'm going to insert it here, and we'll call this login valid. And then this will be the login invalid. Okay. And because we've only got one runner on a free account, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use preview test, which is then going to create all of the test cases that I could run on this flow, but then it allows me to pick which one I want to run. So we want to run the valid test first. Well, we have the valid test here, and we can see that that did work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the open node at the start, and then I'm just going to step through, and you can see the action here, and you can see in the screenshot what it's doing. And you can see all of that has worked, so it was on the correct URL. We can see what the URL actually was there as well. We can see that the flash was displayed, that it had the matching content. We can see that it contains secure area. Now remember, that had the value standardization, and so that's why this test has passed. So what we now want to do is we want to pick the login invalid, and we want to see that as well. Okay, I've got the complete pack results here. And so you can see on the login invalid, if I just open up the screenshot and just step over this, you can see the fields coming in. You've got that your password is invalid flash, and you can see that everything passed. The rest of the pack also did what we expected, so the login invalid also worked, and our visual regression test had the failure that we expected. And so that is really it for this video. I would love to go over all the other nodes and advanced features in more detail, but I think that's going to be better in a future video. So if you've got any questions, you can message me in the comments, or you could reach out to DoesQA on the contact form on our website, and also go and create your own account and click on help on any of the pages, and you can create a support request. It's not limited to just paying customers, so it doesn't matter if you've just got our free account, and experience our absolutely second to none support. We're really proud of it, and we'd want you to experience it as well. So until next time, happy testing.